have to understand that we as a dance industry are just inherently one way. You know, and it's not that it's not that there's not beautiful parts to it, you know, but there's a lot of parts to it that are painful for a lot of dancers coming into this. Why don't communities of color have better access to quality ballroom instruction and education the way that white descendant or European descendant cultures do, right? So, you know, whether you grew up in Utah and you could do it from childhood, or whether you grew up in Siberia and you did it from childhood, that's not happening from the Bronx. Boy from the Bronx. I had other dances from childhood, you know, and I didn't have access to ballroom dancing until I was a teenager. And so even as a teenager, as a person of color, that was extraordinarily young to be involved in ballroom dancing. But still, I still had a lot to catch up on because of me starting that late and not being able to have access to it as early as some of my white counterparts had access to it. And so that's a big part of this. Like you had mentioned, how much access do communities of color have to quality ballroom instruction? You know what I mean? And that's like, you're 100%. The other part of that you mentioned is that if you're a dancer, you're a dancer. You know what I mean? When you see somebody who's passionate and authentic about something, like, you just can't help but be excited about it, right?
Yep.
Like I remember, it's you know, it's not my culture, but I definitely, you know, remember, like, just from old movies, that my grandmother used to watch. One of my biggest, like, kind of bucket list things that I want to do is at some point I'm gonna go to Vienna during waltz season, you know, and I definitely want to do that. But another bucket list of mine is I want to go to a real Brazilian carnival in Rio. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's another bucket list of mine, because dancing and authenticity of dance is so beautiful no matter what the culture is. And when you're a dancer, like I said, you're just a dancer. You appreciate it. You want to engage it. And that's just any dancer from any cultural background, I believe. You know what I mean? Yes, I do feel like when you grow up in things, like, yeah, I didn't really have to practice mambo too hard. I didn't really have to practice salsa too hard, because I've heard that music since I was, like, born. And, you know, I was doing that with my body since I was born. But what was interesting about this was when we did a mambo show last year, and we did a salsa show, and Oksana, she's like an undercover Latina. She's really, like, she feels it. And that's what I love about her. One of the best things about her. So in the beginning of our show dance, we had this, it was very African percussion in the beginning of the show dance. And so I was like, Oksana, you know, this is this first part is very plena, you know, in feel. So plena is one of the folkloric dances in Puerto Rico that I grew up with. I said, I want to teach you some plena, and I want to do plena, and we'll be pleneros in the beginning of this. And then when the mambo starts, then we'll start mambo, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And she was just, absolutely. So, you know, I had her in the big white linen skirt and the turban and the flower, and it was beautiful. She looked amazing. And I was in the white linen pants and the white shirt and the hat and everything like that. It was very authentic. It was very good. And we did really well with that routine. We won a lot of different competitions with it, and we did really, really well with that show. We fast forward to Ohio Star Ball, and we're watching a final, and the rhythm final. And, you know, and the finalists, they always do all the show dances in Ohio Star Ball. So one of the couples who was, you know, originally from Russia, who was in the rhythm final, they decided to do kind of like a folkloric Russian dance and mix in some cha-cha and swing with it. And I was just like, oh my God, that is the coolest thing. Like, I love that. And she was just like, and Oksana was like, yeah, this is from this. And she's explaining to me all of the things about this Russian dance. And this is when they do this and da, 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 da. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do it. I want to try it. And, because me as a dancer, I just love stuff like that. And I want to try it, and then she stops and she looks at me and she says, she says, it never occurred to me that me as a dancer, as a Russian dancer, nobody would blink an eye for me to put on that big white skirt and dance with you your folkloric dance. But if you came out and did my folkloric dance with me, it would cause a ruffle of ladders. She said, as a Russian person, she says, I know that for sure. And she says, and it never occurred to me until this moment. And I said, yeah. I said, so this is one of the things in our industry that we have to acknowledge. The first step is acknowledging it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand that we as a dance industry are just inherently one way. And it's not that there's not beautiful parts to it, but there's a lot of parts to it that are painful for a lot of dancers coming into this. And we have to acknowledge that. And we have to, as a society, want to have the desire to reprogram ourselves, reprogram our thoughts, and really start to make dance for everybody.
Yeah. I'm going to ask, again, slightly a loaded question that you can absolutely decide that you want to just pass on. We've kind of established that part of the ultimate issue, the root of the issue, is access to quality dance instruction. So if we know that that is a major factor in not seeing representation on the dance floor, is dance sport in the US inherently racist or classist? Because I tend to lean more towards it's classist, and it's classist because we've built a country and a system based on racism.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We create I always say that our dance sport industry is kind of like a microcosm of the United States. Like in general, you know what I mean? No matter how much progression we have in the United States, you're still going to have racism. You're still going to have classism. And that's going to be something that is a norm that we have accepted, especially people or dancers of color. We've accepted for many, many years in the dance sport industry, is that it is inherently racist. It is inherently classist. Does that mean that it is? Does that mean that it is a terrible art form? Absolutely not. Like, I've devoted my life to it. Does that mean that it's not beautiful? Absolutely not. There's so many beautiful parts to it. You know what I mean? I believe in the therapeutic part of it. I believe in there's so many parts of it that I believe in.
Definitely.
But we definitely, as a society, as a dance sport society, we definitely have to acknowledge it is classist. My boss used to say, we are a luxury hobby, like golf, and when we would sell it to our students, it would be like, oh, join us, a part of the elite life, like enjoy this luxury of caviar and champagne and ballroom dancing,
Yeah.
Like it's all in that category, and so inherently when you do have economic disparities within the country that we do, inherently we're not going to be able to give kids of color access to that luxury hobby. So again, that's another pre-programming that we have to change about ourselves.